Welcome back to Andy Cooks, and today we're starting the first video of our Christmas series. So in the coming weeks, we've got a bunch of videos coming up that will lead to you being able to produce a delicious meal for your family this Christmas. And today we're going to start with the proteins. So starting with the turkey, and we're gonna do a honey glazed turkey, then we're gonna do a roast beef with rosemary salt, and finally my favorite, the maple glazed ham. There's always a glazed ham in my fridge over Christmas. So let's get stuck in. But before we get started, do me a favor and go chuck me a like on this video if you take anything from it at any point of this, and subscribe if you're not. All right, so the first step in our turkey is we're gonna make our little salt seasoning dry brine mixture. So just regular salt, we're gonna go 50 grams. To that, we're going to add 20 grams of brown sugar, and then I'm going to add another 20 grams of Old Bay. Now, if you can't get Old Bay where you are, you're just going to switch that out for 5-spice, smoked paprika, and ground cinnamon. Going to give that a mix together and set it aside. So next up, we're going to make our little compound butter, which is going to go underneath the skin. So you're going to have about 100 grams of butter. To that, you're going to add another good pinch of Old Bay, or about 5 grams. About 5 or 6 grams of salt as well. Don't want it too salty. You've got to have a lot of salt on the outside. And then we're just going to mush that up. Set that aside. Why did I buy medium gloves? All right, time to deal to this bird. So, properly defrosted bird with some good kitchen shears. We're gonna take the wingtips off. And if you just aim for the center of the joint, you should get straight through it. Now, we're gonna flip this bird over, and we're gonna cut down either side of the backbone. So the reason I think spatchcocking the turkey like this is way better than roasting the whole bird is you just get a much more even cook, I should say, and it doesn't dry out as much. There you go, there's the backbone removed. So we're just gonna flip it over, spread the legs out, and crack the breastbone. From here, we're gonna loosen the skin by the breasts, and that's just gonna make pockets for us to spread the compound butter. So now we've got the skin away from the flesh, we can stuff all that with the beautiful butter that we just made. So evenly spread that out and push it all around. Starting at the legs and working your way up. And you're just gonna rub a bit more on the outside, and that's gonna help us with our seasoning really sticking to it. All right, so now we've got our butter under our skin, and we've got a nice even layer spread across the top. We can season this. So onto the tray, onto a rack. We're gonna season this relatively liberally because you've got a big piece of meat, nice and evenly. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get it in the fridge, and we're gonna do what we call dry brine this. Now, ideally you can do this overnight. If you don't have that much time, an hour is better than nothing. But yeah, ideally you want to do this the day before and let this sit in the fridge overnight. In the fridge, uncovered for at least an hour. So before you roast your turkey, you want to have your glaze ready. So for your glaze, you're going to have 10 grams of your seasoning mix, 40 grams of brown sugar, 60 grams of butter, and it wouldn't be honey glaze without honey. You have about 60 grams of honey. Get that onto a low heat until it's bubbling and delicious. Once it's bubbling like that, turn it right down to low and just let those flavors all come together. All right, time to roast this turkey. So we've dry brined this for about 2.5 hours now, and you can see the salt's kind of turned to liquid and the meat absorbs it back up. But we're gonna get this into a 240-degree oven, and we're gonna roast it probably for about an hour and a half in total. But after the first 45 minutes, that's when we'll start glazing it. So we're gonna put a couple of cups of water in the bottom so we can collect the drippings and make gravy. And into a 240-degree oven. Okay, so we're 45 minutes in, and time to start glazing this turkey. Start with the legs. You might lose a bit in the first glaze, so be a little bit liberal. And then we're gonna glaze every sort of 10 minutes after this until all the glaze is gone. So like I was saying before, we're after internal temp of the breasts of 66 degrees Celsius. All right, here she is, and doesn't she look a beaut? So we've got an internal temperature on the thickest part of the breast of 66 degrees Celsius. The legs are about 6 or 7 degrees hotter, but they're always gonna be harder to get them cooked evenly. Anyway, we're gonna let this rest for a good 30 minutes before we carve it up. All right, for the roast beef, mortar and pestle, rosemary, 2 sprigs. This rosemary is from Grandma's house, and it is so strong, it's incredible. I have some peppercorns. I've got pink ones here, which are good, but normal peppercorns will work too. So 20, and 2 good 3-finger pinches of sea salt. Make heaps of noise. Now we're just going to grind this up together. And this is what you end up with, a super vibrant green salt. There's still a few sticks in there, but we're not too worried about that. You can pass this if you want to get rid of those, but I like to leave them in there. All right, so to set the tray, I've just got 3 carrots cut in half with the flat sides down, and then 1 onion cut into quarters that we're gonna put on the tray as well. All this does is lift the beef off the tray, and also helps with our gravy that we're gonna make. So once they're evenly spread, we're gonna put our beef on top. So this is a piece of ebony Angus sirloin, a prime piece of meat. I think it makes a perfect roast, makes it super easy for carving, and I've just taken this out of the packet. I'm not gonna trim it or anything. I think that fat cap is nice. If anything, it's a little bit big, but all that's gonna do is make more flavor. So we're gonna put this on the tray. I'm gonna put it fat side down first to start with, season the bottom, flip it over, season the top, and then we're gonna get it in the oven. Be relatively generous with your salt, and you don't even really need to put any oil on this because that fat cap's gonna render out pretty quickly. All right, so you're gonna put about a cup or even 2 cups of water on the bottom of this tray, and all that's gonna do is stop the drippings from burning so that we can use them for gravy. You just want enough to completely cover the tray. So we're gonna get this into a preheated 220 degrees Celsius oven for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, we're gonna turn that temperature down to 180 degrees Celsius. We're gonna cook it for about an hour at that point and start checking the temperature. We're aiming for an internal temperature of 55 degrees Celsius. All right, so as you can see, we've got really nice color. Our fat's rendered well, and we've reached an internal temp of 55 degrees Celsius. Now that's not dead center in the middle, that's just off to one side a little bit. If you go dead center at 55, you will overcook this. We're looking for like a medium rare, and the end bits will be more like a medium well. And I think that works out really well when you're cooking for the family, because there's always a couple of people that don't like it medium rare. So you give those people the outside bits, and whoever likes some more rare bits, you give the middle. So we're gonna rest this really well now. Like I'm talking like a good 45 minutes before we carve it. And we're gonna make a gravy from the pan juices. So the glazed ham, we're gonna start by making the glaze. So butter, brown sugar, Dijon mustard, maple syrup. Bring that to a boil. So to get the ham ready for glazing, we're gonna take the skin off. We're gonna start on the back by running your blade down the skin, and then we're just gonna start peeling it back, using the blade when you need to. Often it will just come off. If you start seeing flesh being pulled up, that's when you just get your blade in there just to help it along. You wanna try and keep as much fat on it as possible, especially around the front. You're just trying to take the skin off. And there it is. All right, to score, we're just gonna run our blade through the fat only. We don't wanna hit the flesh, and we wanna end up with a diamond pattern. You can take as much or as little time as you want with this, or you can just get the job done. But it's Christmas, so let's take a bit of time, make sure our lines are all nice and straight and everything's meeting up well. So I've got these lines about 3 centimeters apart from each other. Then we're gonna flip it around and do the same thing in the opposite direction. So I like to do a layer of glaze at this point before we stud it with our cloves, and that just makes the first layer a lot easier to get on because we're not trying to avoid the cloves. So layer of glaze on, and we're just going to place a clove in the center of each diamond. So we've got a 160-degree oven, and we're just going to place it in for about an hour and a half in total. After the first 20 minutes, we're gonna start basting it. All right, and there's our glazed ham done. Now, we don't need to stress too much about internal temperature here because it's obviously already cooked, but you just want it to be warm all the way through, at least sort of 45, 50 degrees. Now at this point, you're gonna let it rest before we carve it and serve it up. These will last in the fridge for like at least 5 days, no problem. So carve off what you want and then leave it in the fridge covered, and you're good for sandwiches for the next few days. And there we have it, guys, the Christmas proteins all ready to go. We have the honey glazed turkey, the rosemary salt beef, and the maple and mustard glazed ham. Stay tuned in the coming weeks. I've got a video coming up very soon about carving all these, and I've got one the week after about making gravy. Thanks for watching. Chuck me a like if you enjoyed this, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you very soon for that carving video. Peace.